of Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tonight, we're looking at the second law of behavior change, which says make it attractive. And under this, we'll be reviewing chapter 9, which is titled The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. So we're looking at how your habits are shaped. In 1965, there was this Hungarian man named Laszlo Polgar, and he wrote a series of strange letters to a woman named Clara. What did he actually want from Clara? He wanted Clara to marry him because somehow they had something in common. Polgar believed so much that there was nothing like innate talent, that anybody can achieve anything in life through hard work. That if you practice something enough, if you dedicate time to it, if you do it in such a way that you can sharpen your skill, be committed to it, you can actually become a genius. Polgar believed that a genius is not born, but is educated and trained. So you can train and educate any child to become a genius. That was his belief. And he wanted to try this out with his own children. But he needed a wife. And that was why he wrote several times to Clara. And finally, Clara, who happens to be a teacher, who also believed that any child can be trained to advance their skills, even though she was not a very strong believer in hard work like that, like Polgar believed. She also still believed that any child or anybody can be trained to attain a particular skill. And so, luckily for Mr. Polgar, Madame Clara agreed to marry him. And Polgar decided that he was going to try out this his belief on his own children, and he would use chess to train them. That chess will be a suitable field for the experiment. He laid out plans on how their childhood would be. They would be chess prodigies. They would be homeschooled, even though homeschooling was not a very popular thing in the country at that time. The children would play against each other. They would have tournaments. They would be enrolled in competitions and all of that. So a few years down the line, Mr. Polgar and Madame Clara had 3 beautiful girls. One was Susan. That's the first child. The second child was Sophia, and the third child was Judith. And so they started training them in chess, right? They would play all the time, from morning till night, to the point that one day, the youngest child was playing chess in the bathroom. And the father was like, leave those, what did he even say? He said, leave those pieces alone. And the girl replied and said, no, they won't leave me alone. That was how addicted they were to the game of chess. That was how attractive they had found that habit. And so Susan, the oldest, began playing chess when she was just 4 years old. And within 6 months, she was defeating adults. The second child, Sophia, did even better than the first child. At the age of 14, she was a world champion. And a few years later, she became a grandmaster. Go and check out who a grandmaster in the game of chess is. The third girl, Judith, was the best of all. By age 5, she could beat her dad at any game. And at 12, she was the youngest player ever listed among the top 100 chess players in the world. At the age of 15 and 4 months old, she became the youngest grandmaster of all time, younger than Bobby Fischer, who was the previous record holder. For 27 years, she was the #1 ranked female chess player in the world. Wow. So, Polgar proved his belief right, that you can train anybody. I know this may not be so related, but it is a lesson that we can pick. That if we apply our hearts to anything, if we decide to learn anything, we dedicate our time, our resources, our whole being to it, we can actually know it. We can get it. We can become skillful at anything. And the best thing is to train children. Anything you want your children to be good at, start training them from when they are young, because their brain is still very flexible. They can pick up anything when their interests have not been developed in other areas, right? Now, let's go ahead. The thing is that people would often wonder that the childhood of these three girls must have been so boring and all of that. Imagine staying at home, being homeschooled, and dedicating all your life to the game of chess. But they said no, that their childhood wasn't boring. It was entertaining. That chess was so attractive. They enjoyed it. They didn't know of anything else. They didn't know of any other way to enjoy life. So they became addicted to this. They found it attractive. And this is because they grew up in a culture that prioritized chess above anything else. People are only going to have divided attention, divided interest. They are confused in life because they have so many options. In the case of these sisters, chess was their priority. It was like the only option they had. It is either you succeed at this game or you succeed. So they had to dedicate their entire being to it, right? So we're about to see that whatever habits are normal in your culture are among the most attractive behaviors you will ever find. Some of the habits that you have today, it wasn't because you naturally wanted to do them, but you don't have any choice. It is the habits of the culture that you were born into or that you grew up in, or, different factors. So this would lead us to examining the seductive pool of social norms. Human beings are herd animals. We want to fit in, we want to bond with other people, we want to blend in, we want to collaborate. It makes us happy. To the point that if anybody is being ostracized from a group or a community or a society, the person would feel lonely. The person would feel like committing suicide. In Igbo culture, for example, there's something they call Osu. That means an outcast. Anybody that becomes an outcast in Igbo land, it is a terrible thing. I don't know if it is still that serious now, but in those days, you dare not become an outcast. That means you are banished from the land. It is even worse to the point that they will mark your family. Nobody will want their child to marry into your family. They say, don't go there. That is a forbidden family. They are Osu, or that man is an Osu, is an outcast. So the man or the person who becomes an outcast would, in most cases, just become useless in life. Some would attempt suicide or eventually even die. Because once they are removed from the community, they do not see any essence of life. And that is why social bond is so important to us as human beings. Whether you're a child or an adult, we all long for that acceptance. We all want to belong, right? So one of the deepest human desires is to belong. That's why you see people do all kinds of things, because they just want to belong. They don't want to be the odd one out. And this ancient preference exerts a powerful influence on our modern behavior. All over social media, we see trends. Everybody is catching the trend. Everybody is, blending in. Everybody is doing it. Because if you don't, you look like, you are not even current. You don't know what's up. Like, what planet are you living in? Something like that. We don't choose our earliest habits. We imitate them. We copy. Any habits that you probably have today that is not one that you intentionally built when you became an adult, you probably or most likely copied it. Maybe from your parents or your friends, your neighbor, your pastor, or somebody that you admire online that you have never even met before. We follow the script handed down by our friends, family, church, school, local community, and the society at large. The custom and practices of life in society sweep us along. We just find ourselves going along. So it is very powerful. That's why we really, really need to be careful, especially with children. They will pick up anything. I usually tell people that as parents, it is not like some habits are entirely bad or some behaviors are entirely bad, but you don't want to confuse your children. You don't want them to pick it up, right? Because they don't understand. Yes, they don't understand why you are doing it. So you'd rather avoid it altogether so that you don't confuse their little minds, their curious minds, and then they pick it up and do it, the wrong way, right? In the workplace too, is the same thing. There are places where you work. You don't have a choice. Even if nobody tells you, you start dressing like everybody else is dressing. If you work in a bank, for example, if they don't tell you that, oh, you have to come in your suit and everything, looking sharp, you are not going to go there in Iro and Buba. For those who know the Yoruba culture, blouse and wrapper, when everybody is suited up, right? So you naturally pick the culture of a place. Now we imitate the habits of three groups in particular. Number one, the close. Number two, the many. Number two, the powerful. Now let's break it down. Each group offers an opportunity to leverage the second law of behavior change, which is to make our habits more attractive. So imitating the many, how does this work? Imitating the close is the first one. It means that you copy the behaviors of those people who are very, very close to you, people who surround you that you probably see every time. Proximity has a powerful effect on our behavior. You are most likely to pick the behavior of somebody who is close to you, one who you see every day, who you interact with. Before you know it, you may not even be conscious that you're already talking like this person. I remember as a child, sometime I was already trying to stutter like one of my classmates, because we would interact all the time and you begin, like Yoruba people would say, when you are always interacting with somebody, before you know, you start behaving like them. You start acting like them, right? We copy the way our parents handle arguments. If you're a lady, you're probably cooking like your mother used to cook. If you're a man, you're probably treating your wife like your father treated your mom, right? Something like that. Or you've picked up a behavior from that close friend of yours. Our friends and family provide a sort of invisible peer pressure. Peer pressure is not always bad. It is only bad when it is negative. There is positive peer pressure, right? So there's this peer pressure, there's this influence on your life. You soak up the qualities and practices of those people around you, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So one of the most important effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior, like the Intentional Readers Club. You want to become a reader, an ardent reader. You want to make reading a culture. Just join them. They're already doing what you want to do. Become a part of the reading club. And then you see your habits, that habit you're trying to form, the habit of reading, it becomes attractive to you. It's no more a daunting thing like, oh, it's so impossible to form a reading habit because people are already doing it. So that habit becomes attractive that, wow. So it can be so easy to read like this, to do reviews and everything. New habits seem achievable when you see others doing them every day. Then you feel like, oh, it's not so hard in the first place. If you are surrounded by fit people, you are most likely to consider working out as well. If you live in an estate where everybody is jogging in the morning and they're, fit farm, you will also want to join them naturally, right? So you have to be very intentional. Who are those that are already doing what you wish to do, the habits you wish to form? Just join them. Very simple. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have yourself. You will rise together. As they are rising, you are rising. As they are motivated, the motivation is rubbing off on you. The good habit is rubbing off on you. And before you know it, it becomes like a group identity. And this can make us really proud. Like, oh, we are readers. Everybody here now, we can say, oh, we are readers. We are reviewers, We are knowledgeable people. We are serious-minded people. So that identity that is supposed to be a personal thing now becomes a group thing. And that gives you more pride. Like, oh, when people say, oh, we are Rotarians, things like that. So it makes you proud. You become a reader. You become an athlete. You become an inspiration to other people. Right. Let's look at the second one very quickly. Imitating the many. Now, this is the power of the crowd. And we have to be very, very careful with this. There's a very profound example here of an experiment titled the Social Conformity Experiment, performed in the 1950s by psychologist Solomon Asch. And these experiments had now been taught to so many students in their undergraduate year. So what did these psychologists do? he invited a student. He would bring a student probably into the hall or a lecture room, and he would make strangers to come in with the students. So he had planned with these strangers that they were going to be actors, or they are acting. They've written a script, what they were going to do, what they were going to say. But the students did not know. The students are referred to here as subjects. So I'm assuming that we're students. So they'll enter the class together. As you are coming in, you just see that, oh, you have unknown faces around you, but you think that probably they are also students like you. And the psychologist drew these lines on the board, and he would want them, he drew this line, and he would ask them, this line is the same as which of these three? And you, the student, who is the real student now, you really know the answer. You know that this one is the same as C, line C, right? And you are very, very sure. But the strangers who had come in with you, they want to confuse you. Now, they will intentionally go for the wrong answer. Because you are influenced by the crowd, you will now look around. You don't want to be the odd one out. So you too, you will now say, okay, it's C. Sorry, it's A. It's A. Maybe everybody else chose A. A is the wrong answer. You know that the answer should be C. But because many people went for A, you will now second guess yourself. You will now doubt your own abilities and say, okay, it's A, it's A, it's A. At another time, the psychologist will ask another questions that the answer was so obvious. And then you know the answer. It's so obvious. It should be this. And everybody say, no, it's the other one. You just laugh. You look at yourself. You feel so embarrassed. And then you conform to their own answer. Isn't that what happens in real life with so many people? They just move with the crowd. It is also called the bandwagon effect. You do it because everybody is doing it. We shouldn't be, right? So consciously or unconsciously, you are following the crowd. What is trending, how people eat, how people spend money, how everybody goes shopping, and things like that. So you begin to pick up these habits. There can be a downside to it. It means that the behavior, the wrong behavior of other people can overshadow your own. The herd mentality, that's right, can overshadow your own. Like in the case here of another example with the chimpanzee who would crack nuts in an effective way. Then the chimpanzee was relocated from his environment to another environment where the chimpanzees there would use the less effective way. And over time, he will start using the less effective way, believing that that should be the right way. So don't move with the crowd. Don't blend in. Have the courage to stand out. Have the courage to be on the right path, to do the right. Even if you are the only one, stand alone. It is not a crime if you are so sure. How do I put this? This is coming so strongly to me, you know, having children in mind. Having children in mind, they can be easily influenced. That's why we really, really, really need to be on top of our game as parents, right? We make sure that we tell them the fact that everybody is doing it does not mean you should do it. It doesn't mean that it is right. But that is how people pick up habits. That's what we're trying to say. So because everybody is doing it, you now find the habits to be attractive, whether it is good habits or bad habits. Like the soldiers we learned about, the United States soldiers that were fighting war in Vietnam, they became addicted to cocaine. Why? Because all the soldiers at the time, many of them were doing it. So by association, they found it attractive to also become cocaine addicts, right? The human mind knows how to get along with others. It just wants to get along. It just wants to belong. It is a natural thing to want to do. So don't be too hard on yourself if you want to get along. But have the wisdom, have the courage to tell yourself that the truth matters. Most days we would rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. We shouldn't fall into that trap. Then the last one, imitating the powerful. This is like copying people who are powerful, who admired maybe in the society, or respectable people, and then we want to copy their habits because they are powerful, because they are celebrities, maybe like the president. Oh, a whole president, if he is doing this, then it must be right. Then we begin to copy the president. Maybe your favorite celebrity, your favorite actor, Denzel Washington, starts doing something, social media is going to go agog. Oh, Denzel is doing it. Denzel is shopping in this particular clothing store. Then everybody begins to go there. So because Denzel Washington is doing it, oh, it must be a good habit. It must be attractive. We all want to be associated with what is good, with status, with power, with fame, with recognition, admiration, right? We are drawn to behaviors that earn us respect, approval. If I eat where Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, sorry if you're not a Nigerian, eats, she was the first female chairman of First Bank of Nigeria, right? She's the one that came to my head now. I like her, right? I like her a lot. If I eat where she eats now, how do you think I will feel? I will feel accomplished. I'll feel like, yeah, I eat in the same restaurant with Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika. So I'll take pride in that. Or maybe I speak like her, or I do things like her. I'll take pride in that. Yeah, she's also a pastor, So we tend to imitate people. We tend to imitate people who are up there. People who already have the name, the status, the power. High status people enjoy the approval, respect. And in the same vein, or conversely, we also try to avoid behaviors that would lower our status, right? We don't want to do a particular thing because we feel that if we do it, we are going to lose respect. You don't want to leave your house looking dirty and allow visitors to come in like that. Even if they had respect for you before, they begin to look down on you like, so with the way you usually deck up to the office or to church, this is how dirty your house is. So because of that, you won't want to do it at all, right? All right. Thank you. So those are the 3 ways that we imitate habits and how our habits are shaped. What is the chapter summary? Very quickly. The culture we live in determines which behaviors are attractive to us. We tend to adopt habits that are praised and approved of by our culture because we have a strong desire to fit in and belong to the tribe. Number 3, we tend to imitate the habits of 3 social groups. The close, this can be family and friends, people we see all the time that are very close to us, literally. Number 2, the many. We follow the tribe, follow the behavior of the crowd. Number 3, the powerful, those who have status and prestige. Then one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where, number 1, your desired behavior is the normal behavior. You can actually make this a strategy. Join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. You want to become a reader, an ardent reader, join a reading club. Then number 2, you already have something in common with the group. Join them. It will make it very easy for you. Like Madam Clara joined Mr. Polgar, married him actually because they had something in common. Then the normal behavior of the tribe often overpowers the desired behavior of the individual. Most days we would rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. The crowd has a lot of influence on us, but don't be afraid to be the odd one out, to stand out in the right path. Then lastly, if a behavior can get us approval, respect, and praise, we find it attractive. Even though naturally it may not be something attractive, but because it comes with respect, with praise, everybody's doing it, people around you are doing it, you find it attractive because you have that sense of belonging as a human being. All right, thank you so much. We've come to the end of chapter 9 of Atomic Habits. Don't forget to like this video. Please share your comments with me in the comment section below, and please subscribe to this channel in case you're yet to subscribe. I remain Olaide Agbaje, also known as First Lady, and on this channel, I inspire you to live intentionally. I'll come your way again tomorrow as we review chapter 10, which is titled How to Find and Fix the Causes of Your Bad Habits. It is going to be another interesting review. Until then, be intentional. Bye. You're welcome. Amen. You're welcome.